Alright, so I just wanted to teach you the basic concept of using rope bags and storing your ropes in bags. So before we stuff it in the bag, what I usually like to do is called yarding, and that's just dragging your rope over and putting it in a loose pile beside you, because if you've been using it, it might be spread out all over the place. So really quickly, yarding, you just pull it all in like this and throw it into a big loose pile that's close to you. It's usually easier to work with if you've done that. So the concept here of putting your rope into a bag is just loosely flaking it in there like this. So I see a lot of people will do this. They'll grab a whole bunch and then stuff that in there. Just stick with a little bit at a time. Just loosely flake it in there. So one technique that works really well for this is if you put your body sort of between the pile and the bag, and you can put the rope over your shoulder like that, and then you can use your shoulder as a fair lead, and you can just flake it in there nice and quick. And as you're going, you might want to just jump it up and down there just to get it to compress a bit, so you can get a good rhythm going. It doesn't take long, and you can stuff your whole rope into the bag. And what I like to do on the end of my rope, just to make it easier to find next time, I'll just tie a quick daisy chain like that, and I'll just set that on top, and that way next time I come back to it, I can always find that. It's very easy to see, and I know where the end is. So the last thing you want to do is close the bag. I see a lot of people taking the time and effort to properly put the rope in the bag, and then they don't close the bag, and then the bag gets thrown in the truck and knocked over, and half of it comes spilling out. So if you're gonna take the trouble of putting your rope properly into a bag, make sure you close the bag when you're done. So next I wanted to show you about coiling ropes. So this is a great option, especially for your shorter ropes. You don't need a bag for all your short ropes. You can just coil them up quickly and easily. So to uncoil a rope, you just pull the tail. It's finished with a little bit of a daisy chain, so you just pull those bites out, and then it has a few wraps on top. Undo those wraps, and then if you pay attention to the way that it was wrapped up, you try and throw it on the ground so that those loops will come off the top of the coil instead of being upside down. So it's a good idea, each time you uncoil a rope, you want to just yard it real quickly into a pile, and that way you know that you can start using it without tangles. So you just yard it up real quick. So there you go, it's ready to use. So now when you're done with it, I'll show you how to coil it back up. So you want to start with a length of rope hanging down to the ground like this, and the way I do it is I just sort of grab about an arm's length like this, and that's what I'm going to start with my coil with. So I've seen a lot of people will take this coil and they'll very gingerly they'll twist it, and they'll try to form this perfect loop every time, and it takes a lot of effort, and they're constantly twisting and twisting and twisting to get it to do that. So you don't actually want to do it that way, because to do it that way requires that you put a lot of twist into your rope. So instead of that, what you do is you give it a little flick like that, little flick. What it'll start to form is like, it looks like an 8. It'll cross itself. So I just give it a little flick each time, and I transfer that loop onto my hand here, and you can see each of these is starting to twist a bit. So you just get a good rhythm going. Doesn't take long. Another reason you don't want to coil your really long ropes is because you're holding all this weight. So if this was a long rope, this would eventually get really heavy on my shoulder on this side. So it's really useful for ropes that are probably under 100 foot. So I'm near the end now. What I want to do is finish this. So the finish is the really important part of coiling a rope, because I see all the time people will do a good coil and then they'll do a sloppy finish. So you want to do a nice tight finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this around, I'm going to hold it in my arm like this, and I'm going to grab it back on this side. I'm going to come around. So from here, the first cross is going to be on top, and I'm keeping this all tight, and then I'm going to hold it in my arm again. I'm going to keep it tight, and I'm going to wrap upwards a couple times like that. So now I've got about 3 wraps on there. So now to finish it, I'm going to hold it between my knees. I'm going to take a bite and I'm going to put it through all of these loops like that. And then I'm going to put a bite through that bite like that. I'm going to throw an extra one on there because I got enough tail here, and then I'm going to tuck the tail. So that is coiling and uncoiling your ropes.